In this video, I'm going to show you how to get premium clients pre-sold on working with you before they ever hear your offer, without becoming a content machine, without posting a million pieces of content, hoping your ideal client sees it before it disappears, and you can't get your magic across in 15 seconds anyway, and without spending months and months trying to convince people who should have been a yes from the beginning. No more chasing people down. This is for you if you are a brilliant and established coach with a proven offer, you have incredible client results, and a business that's already working, but you're worshiping at the altar of consistency and hoping that more visibility can someday translate into actual more sales. You're tired of constantly hearing, do this or try this, and it sends you on another path, and you get some dream clients that come through, some people responding to the content that you're putting out there. And you're like, oh my gosh, it worked. So that kind of stuff is happening, but it feels like it's just not happening fast enough. And deep down, you're tired of throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks, and everything feels like foundational work. And you're like, why the heck am I still doing foundational work? You know what you want to do, but the ways to do it are muddy and unclear. And you probably have a bunch of offers that look like a dysregulated nervous system. You just want a system. You want to feel like you have an engine that's actually running, because you know your work is transformational. Your clients rave about you, and you get the kind of results where the clients are saying, I don't even recognize myself anymore. They send you voice messages and they're crying, and then you listen to them and you get teary-eyed. And your clients tell you that like an hour working with you is almost like a year either trying to do it on their own or working with somebody else. It's so shiny on the inside working with you, but none of that is reflected on the outside. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, if only people could feel what happens inside my world. Like, how do I get them to feel that without working with me yet? And if they did feel that, they'd be begging to work with me. And you know what? You're right. But here's what's actually going on. You look around you and you see other people with half your caliber, half your experience, but who have much bigger audiences, and they're crushing it. So you think, I just need a bigger audience. And the reality is you have a magic that no one else has, but they can't feel it until they actually work with you. So somewhere between you being in the room and how you show up online, it's getting lost in the noise. And when that happens, you keep attracting people who admire you, but don't actually buy from you. And you're wondering why the heck your sales don't reflect the caliber of the work that you do. So I believe you're the kind of woman that takes ownership over what you do, takes ownership of your results. You know you're capable of so much more than where your business is at right now, which is exactly why this is so frustrating. You've built the expertise, you've invested in yourself, you've spent thousands of dollars in masterminds and programs and coaching. And honestly, a lot of courses that you bought are not even relevant anymore because of how people are buying online. You get actual client results because you give a shit and you know your work absolutely changes lives, but your sales don't reflect that. You don't have a predictable sales system that's converting clients and getting them to show up already pre-sold on you, without having to handle a million objections and posting all the time. Your marketing doesn't create the same trust that people in real life feel once they actually meet you and work with you. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you three things. First, why so many brilliant coaches who are amazing at what they do think they have a visibility problem, but that's not what's really costing them sales. Then I'm going to walk you through the stages that every established coach goes through when they're trying to grow their business online and help you identify the exact stage that's keeping your sales stuck right now and keeping you from getting the sales that you know that you should have. And third, I'll show you how we flip the script. And instead of showing you how you can create work like a content machine and create more content and produce more and more and more, so you can hopefully build trust somewhere along the way, we create the ecosystem in which premium clients actually sell themselves on working with you before they ever hear your offer. So I'll share some real examples of coaches we worked with who stopped relying on content volume and started really attracting clients who arrived already knowing that they wanted to work with them. So pre-sold. And at the end, I'll show you how our program Pre-Sold Clients works and how to find out if it's a good fit for you. And if none of this lands, go ahead and close this tab and keep whatever's useful for you. But if you've ever looked at your sales and thought, there is no way that these numbers actually reflect the caliber of my work and what I'm capable of, pay attention. So I've spent over 15 years and invested hundreds of thousands of dollars developing this. It's not theory. I've spent more than a decade as a filmmaker and storyteller, and my work won an Emmy Award and was nominated for a second. And for years, my entire job was understanding one thing. Why do some stories create instant connection and others get completely ignored? And this honestly happens with people too. Like, why do some people earn trust almost immediately while some other people just come and go and you completely forget about them? What makes some messages stick with you like long after you've heard them? And honestly, I wasn't studying marketing. I wasn't even studying storytelling. I just really wanted to understand the psychology behind trust, behind human connection, like what makes people actually feel. So I worked inside of the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, 30 Rock, NBC, and I had stories published on the homepages of each of those publications. And then I entered the online space and I noticed something really fascinating because like right away, I got obviously super targeted by a million ads for low ticket offers this and lead magnets that, and I signed up for everything. And sure enough, my inbox was absolutely flooded because people came into my inbox and I was like, who the heck is this person? Like, I know I must have signed up for something, but like when you know you must have signed up for something, but who are they? Like, what are they about? And I realized that this is the exact broken system that's backwards and that we're still being taught to do. Like, we should put value out there and hope that people sign up for it. And then we show up in their inbox and on their feed, and we hope they remember who we are. And you know how all those gurus keep saying, like, you need 6 to 12 months of providing value consistently and putting value out there, content out there, and hoping that people remember who you are, hoping that they actually pay attention and to what you're saying. And eventually, over all of these tiny touch points over and over again, somewhere along the way, we hope that we're building trust. And if you've been doing this and hoping to stand out, honestly, it's not your fault because this is the system that we've been taught and it's completely broken. You know what happens when you're in the room and somebody meets you in person and they just can feel the depth of your caliber and your magic, and most likely they feel like really safe with you and they tell you things that they wouldn't tell anybody else right away. The reality is, like, if we could create that instant connection the moment that people meet us online and really occupy real estate in their mind, that would accelerate trust and accelerate sales. And all everyone is telling you to do is post more content. But when you understand how to create that deep connection with strangers when they're meeting you for the first time, and you know how to do that at scale, meaning you're not having to meet every single prospect on Zoom, this is how you accelerate your entire sales process. Because every time you do show up, people will remember you and they will pay attention and they will reignite all of these feelings that you created in their brain space the moment that they met you. And that's when trust actually compounds. Some of the most brilliant coaches that I've ever met are women creating extraordinary transformations, but we're struggling to communicate that online and to really make people instantly feel what someone feels when they meet them in real life. Because somewhere between who they are in the room and how they're showing up online, it's getting completely lost. So I became obsessed with solving that problem. And sure, listen, maybe if you have a content engine like Hermosi or a lot of these 8 or 9 figure coaches who post multiple times a day, I mean, volume works because after seeing them multiple times, people will probably trust you, but a lot of times are necessary. But my guess is you don't have a marketing team. It's you and a VA, an AI agent, or maybe some contractors. And also, if you're anything like me, you want to build a lean business. You don't want to add a ton of team members. You want a freedom lifestyle business instead of managing a ton of people. So in reality, if the only roadmap you've had is creating content volume, you're fighting a lost battle because you're trying to compete for attention on volume and you're having to spend all your CEO time creating a million pieces of content and it still barely moves the needle. So it's completely unsustainable. And honestly, you didn't start your coaching business to become a content creator. We already know that people buy when they trust. And building trust with volume of content over a long period of time is doable, but the better way to do it is to accelerate trust with deep connection and shifting their beliefs. But it takes understanding how to engineer that trust so that you can do it with fewer touch points and a whole lot faster. And just to be clear, like, listen, I'm not against content. We actually use very specific kind of content inside of pre-sold clients. What I'm against is this idea that we've been sold that the only way to build trust online is to keep showing up and posting a million pieces of content and hoping that trust eventually happens somewhere in there, hoping your ideal client sees enough of your posts, the right posts. You hope that they're watching enough of your stories or reading enough of your emails. You're hoping that they remember you after they meet you and that they stick around long enough to finally have what they need to decide that they want to work with you. So if you've ever felt like constantly posting, constantly showing up, constantly creating, constantly following the next trend of like, oh, you need to be doing this, and somehow it's still not creating predictable sales in your business, you know exactly what I mean. And this is for you. Your goal should not be being consistent and put as much content out there as you can, become a media company, as they say. Your goal is helping your dreamiest client arrive at the right conclusions about you and your offer as quickly as possible. So I'm going to say that again. Your goal is helping your dreamiest client arrive at the right conclusions about you and your offer as quickly as possible. Not playing the long game, we're doing it fast. That single idea is what produces every single result that you're about to see. Because once someone hears the right stories and shifts the right beliefs and arrives at the right conclusions, they're ready to buy. They don't ghost when you tell her how much the investment is. They don't need to be convinced. More importantly, they do not need to be chased down. They don't need guarantees, overpromising before they're ready to decide. But you have to make sure that's in place. And that's what creates pre-sold clients. Not about posting more content. It's about engineering trust so that you build it intentionally with the right stories, with the specific touch points that she needs to hear. And she's sold on you before you ever get on a sales call. So just to give you some context, at least of what's possible, and I'm not making any income claims. We don't do guarantees or anything like that. It's just the byproduct of some very simple systems that I'm about to share with you. So let's look at the stages of selling specifically for an online coaching business. Now, most coaches think there are only two categories. You're either visible enough or you're not. And that's not what's actually happening. So after working with hundreds of coaches, I found that there are actually like 6 stages. And every coach I've ever met is sitting somewhere on this map. So the first stage is the warm circle. This is where everybody starts. So most people start from the bottom. Your clients come from referrals, word of mouth, friends, colleagues, past clients, people who've spent time around you, people who already know that you're brilliant. And the interesting thing is at this level, people tend to buy fairly easily and has nothing to do with how good you are at sales because they've either experienced you in person or through someone that they trust already. And you rarely have to convince these people. The problem is this stage has a ceiling. We know that referrals are great. Thank God for referrals, but they are completely unpredictable. So relying on referrals to grow means that you rarely need to understand how to market your business, how to market yourself. And then if leads stop coming in, you're basically screwed because you don't have a predictable client acquisition system. Your business can only grow as fast as people personally experience you or are referred by someone else. And eventually you hit a point where you're thinking, I need more people. And that's where you enter stage 2. So stage 2, you are chasing visibility. This is where you look at your business and think, people who personally know me and trust me eventually buy from me. So I just need more people to see me, which is reasonable. And this is where you are going on all the podcasts, you're building an audience, you're growing your visibility, you start posting more content, showing up consistently, you try your best to stay top of mind. You do collaborations, and for a while, it feels like you're making progress because some people are finding you and your email list might be growing. But also you realize how freaking noisy it is out there. So even if you're pouring hours and hours into your content, it's still hard to break through. So when your visibility is increasing, you assume that sales are right around the corner, but then something starts happening, which is stage 3, the content hamster wheel. Hello. And this is where a lot of coaches get trapped because now you're creating significantly more content than you used to, and you're spending a ton of your CEO time looking for those visibility opportunities and creating content. You bought the courses, you've saved a billion posts on Instagram on how to go viral or how to create more content. What do I talk about on Instagram? And you're spending all of this CEO time getting sucked into content creation. And yet your sales are not growing at the same rate as your effort. So you try to fix this by just doing more, posting more content or more nurturing in the DMs and chasing people down, more explaining your offer, which honestly will oftentimes sound like over explaining and repels premium buyers. And this is where you start feeling a little weird because technically things are working. People are watching and engaging, and maybe you're getting some likes, you're getting new followers, but somehow the workload just keeps increasing, but it isn't actually bringing in leads and clients. And there's probably a moment where content doesn't feel like you anymore. It doesn't click with your clients, and you start feeling like, oh my gosh, if I stop posting, will people actually even remember me? So I need to keep feeding this machine. And you're on your own, and you find yourself on your phone during family time way more than you'd ever wanted to be. It feels like a full-time job because it's like speed to lead, baby. If somebody's DMing you, you have to respond right away. It's all of that manual work, creating that visibility that you need to create. And there's a part of you, honestly, that starts to kind of resent your business when you're in this phase because you didn't start your coaching business just to become a full-time content creator. And you hate the idea of being salesy. So even though that's what the gurus are saying that you need to become, a media company, you didn't sign up to become a media company. You started this business because you're incredible at what you do in your specific lane. And if we're being honest, if you disappeared from Instagram for the next 30 days, would a small part of you panic? Probably. Your leads might stop. Would you worry that people would forget about you? If so, that's a sign you're building a visibility engine and not a trust and sales engine. This stage often sounds like I'm showing up consistently, but the sales are just not where they should be. Or I feel like I'm doing everything right, but I don't want to spend the next 5 years of my life posting every single day. Which brings us to stage 4, seen but not felt. This is where probably your biggest realization happens because if you're staying consistent and people are finding you, they're landing on your profile, checking you out, and some of them are maybe even joining your email list, but they're not really feeling who you are, like truly understanding and grasping how incredible you are and what it would actually be like to work with you. And if you've ever thought to yourself, there are way too many people who need me and who already know that I exist for this to be this inconsistent, if you've ever thought that, you're probably living right here. And this is where coaches start saying things like, people love my content, but they're not buying. People are always watching, but nobody's actually moving. And I know I'm better than what my sales reflect right now. This is the stage where there's clearly a gap between who you are and the depth of your work and the magic that clients feel. And honestly, with how you're being experienced online. And this is where I want you to remember something, that the internet strips away the thing that makes you extraordinary, the thing that makes people feel when they sit across the room from you or when they spend an entire hour in your world, the thing that makes them think, oh my God, she's my person, because it's noisy. And nobody is listening to more than 3 seconds of your reel before they scroll. And there are probably thousands of other coaches that when people first meet them sound quite like the thing that you do. But listen, at this stage, visibility is not the issue. People can see you, but the issue is that they're not feeling enough of your depth and your caliber to really understand who you are and to trust you. And because they don't trust you yet, they might linger, they might wait. Your sales cycle takes a lot longer. They just don't feel compelled to take action. And meanwhile, you're tired of being admired as a peer and ready to be hired as the freaking badass that you are. This is where most coaches stay 4 years because they've bought into the lie that their sales cycle is 6 to 12 months or 18 months, and that's just how it is. And nobody taught them what to do to get out of that stage. This is where you're proving yourself all the time. You're having to build trust from scratch when people get on the phone with you. But what you need is not more content. You need the right things in place in order to be chosen. And what you want is your dreamiest people showing up ready to buy from you. So stage 5 is the trust ecosystem. This is where everything starts changing because not only are you more visible, but you stop asking yourself, how do I get more people to find me? And start asking, what do the right people need to feel, believe, once they find me, once they meet me online, which is a completely different question. This is where you stop hoping you're going to build trust over months and months and months of providing value and realize that there's a way for you to intentionally engineer that trust. And the way that we do that inside of Presold clients is that we ask, what are the beliefs that need to shift and what stories support and create those shifts in the most intimate and powerful way possible. So what does somebody need to see in order to feel my caliber and truly feel the magic of who I am, and to see me as their person and my offer as the solution to their problem? So what we do here inside of the trust ecosystem is that we don't create content for the sake of content. We build trust assets, things that continue building trust long after they've been created. And suddenly your marketing starts to feel a whole lot different, because it's not just about throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks or creating content for the sake of content. It's not about performing for the algorithm and chasing a million views and posting 5 times a day. This is where you understand exactly how to speak to your ideal, your dreamiest client, and how to make trust start to compound and to get those assets working for you. And once you've built that trust ecosystem, the goal is to get to pre-sold clients. And this is the stage that every coach wants and dreams of, because this is where your dreamiest client is actually selling themselves on working with you. This is when you're not just selling, you're not selling at all, you're just accepting applications. You're not having to chase them down. They already trust you. They feel connected to you. They understand your value. They already feel your depth. They already believe that you're their person. So when they book a call, it's not about convincing them or even handling objections on the call or proving yourself or justifying your price. The call is just about like what the logistics are, if you even have a call. So this is where you hear things like, I already knew. I was already sold. I didn't need to think about it. I just needed to hear the logistics, because the sale happened before the sale. And that's the whole point. So what if you can now finally take your kids to the movies and to the park and not even worry about your calendar? Because here's the most important question. Where are you on this map? If most of your clients come from referrals, you're stuck here. If you're aggressively growing your visibility because you need to be seen, and that's the only thing that matters is more eyeballs, you're stuck somewhere here. You're either on the hamster wheel and you can't catch up, and you're like, I need to pump more fuel in order to get more clients out of this machine, but you are the machine. But here's the reality. Most of the coaches that come to me are not stuck because they need more visibility. They're stuck because they're sitting right here, somewhere right here, where they're creating more, they're working harder, they're trying to get seen, they're trying a new thing every week. Somebody told them that TikTok is the way to go. Somebody told them that YouTube is the way to go. And honestly, there are eyeballs on their stuff, but they're just not getting fully felt. And so once you understand that, everything in this presentation is going to make a whole lot more sense. It's instead of always chasing more eyeballs, what you need is to create an instant connection where they feel the depth and the magic of who you are the moment they meet you. And there's a clear path forward to your signature offer. And in that path, you are shifting the right beliefs with the right stories, and you're putting it in front of them without being beholden to the algorithm. Hey, real quick, if you've already heard enough and you just want to find out what it looks like to work together, just find me on Instagram at Brand Magnetic. There's probably a link below this video as well, and just DM me the word pre-sold. And I've got a little automation that will send you all the details and pricing. I don't have any setters or closers or anything like that. Just do that and we'll chat soon. Okay, now let me show you what this looks like in real life. One of my clients, Katie, is an osteopath and a pelvic floor coach. And if you've ever worked in a really trust-sensitive niche, you'll understand exactly why this story matters, because women weren't just buying information from Katie, they were trusting her with their bodies, right? They needed to feel safe and feel understood and feel confident that she was the right person to help them. And the frustrating part was that Katie was incredible at what she did. Her clients loved her. The results were there. The expertise was there. Her depth was there. But when people would first discover her online, they couldn't feel any of that. And what people experienced in the treatment room was completely different from what they felt when they actually landed on her website. This is exactly what we were just talking about, where people could see her, but they couldn't feel Katie. So the outside of her business just wasn't matching what happened on the inside. So instead of focusing on more content, more visibility, and more posting, we focused on trust. Specifically, how do we help the right people feel Katie and really trust her before they ever booked a call with her? And how do we help them understand like who she really is? How is she different from everyone else? How do we make them experience like the warmth and the safety and the expertise and the humanity that they would normally experience after meeting her or even working with her. And once we built that trust ecosystem, something really incredible happened because women started signing up for her VIP, like highest level program within days of discovering her online, not after consuming hundreds of pieces of content or a long nurture sequence, like literally within days. So one of the things that Katie said afterwards was, I finally feel like the outside of my business matches the impact that I know I make on the inside. And honestly, that might be one of my favorite client quotes ever, because I think that's what so many established coaches are actually chasing. They don't really care about more followers or more content. Obviously, they want an outside of their business that reflects this incredible shininess that happens on the inside. So let me show you how this actually works. So let's talk about what actually gets you from seen but not felt to getting pre-sold clients coming to you, because there are really only three things that need to happen before somebody becomes a pre-sold client. They need to feel you the moment that they meet you. Then they need to shift beliefs and their perspectives about their problem and their situation and what's possible for them. And then they need to keep hearing the right things with the right stories long enough so that it becomes certainty. And that's it. Those are the three pillars of the pre-sold clients framework. And as I walk you through them, I want you to use this as kind of a diagnosis tool, not like, oh, this is so interesting, but like, how strong is this in my business right now? Because most brilliant coaches don't really have that visibility problem that we talked about. They have a trust bottleneck. And we're about to find out where yours is. So the goal is pre-sold clients. And the first pillar is connection. Your dream client needs to feel you. And this is where coaches unknowingly lose premium clients. We found that there are actually a handful of trust signals that cause somebody to feel connected to you incredibly quickly. And most coaches will communicate one or two of them by accident, but the coaches who get premium pre-sold clients communicate all four of them really intentionally. And the way that we create connection is we first clarify exactly who your dreamiest client is, and then we look at all the ways of making you incredibly magnetic. And finally, we package that human connection. Pillar number two, we shift beliefs. So we create conviction. Now, let's assume that people do feel you, but there's still a second problem, which is people can like you and still not buy from you, because every sale requires belief shifts. Your dreamiest client needs to arrive at certain conclusions before they're ready to invest. They have to believe that her problem is worth solving, that the old way isn't working, that change is actually possible, and that your approach is different from anything they've ever tried, and you're the right person to help them. So most coaches, again, are busy creating content, but they're not intentionally shifting beliefs. They're hoping that the right conclusions eventually happen. And that's why content creation also feels like so much work with so little return, because content doesn't actually create sales. Belief shifting creates sales. So the way that we build conviction is we understand what beliefs need to be shifted. Then we identify the right stories that are going to shift those beliefs. And finally, we create them as trust assets. So we're being incredibly specific about which pieces of content we're creating, because they each have a job. One of my clients, Vanessa, is a documentary cinematography coach. She's brilliant at storytelling, but she had a tiny audience, no ads, no giant list. And like so many coaches, she thought she just needed more eyeballs, right? But what she actually needed was for the right people to understand why her work mattered. So once we identified the beliefs that she needed to shift and we matched those to the right stories, everything changed. She sold out her program within 36 hours, 5-figure launch, a tiny list, no ads, because the right stories shifted the right beliefs. And that's the game. It's not content. It's belief shifting. So we have connection, conviction, and pillar number 3 is continuity. Now, here's the final piece. And honestly, this is the one that most coaches never really think about. So let's say someone really feels you, they starting to believe, but that still doesn't mean that they're going to buy today, because trust compounds. And most coaches have no system for compounding trust. They might create a great piece of content and people love it, but then it disappears. They might tell a brilliant story and some people like it when they see it, but a week later it's gone. So every day feels like starting over. And that's exhausting. So first we build the trust engine infrastructure, and then we fill that engine with the right trust assets. And then finally we let that compound. And what that means, I know it's a little cryptic, but what that means is that we are using very specific retargeting ads just to your warmest clients and making them see your stuff over and over and over again. So we're not beholden to the algorithm and what it feels like showing your people that day. We are literally getting in front of them every single day, multiple times a day, shifting their beliefs. So without this trust engine, it's exhausting. And Joanna knows this feeling really, really well. She was constantly creating content, constantly trying to stay visible, constantly proving herself. And it felt like the treadmill never stopped because every time she posted something, the clock started ticking. But once we built her trust ecosystem, everything changed because instead of relying on endless content creation, she had strategic trust assets that continuously worked in the background. And the right people were seeing the right things that they needed to see. And the thing that she said was, I paid coaches thousands of dollars to have a content calendar where I was posting this on Monday and this on Tuesday and this on Wednesday. But now I don't have to keep proving myself and exhausting myself day after day. People get who I am and what I'm about before they even meet me. And that's what we're after. We are not chasing attention. We are compounding trust. So here's the question, like, are you relying on the algorithm to build trust for you? Or do you have a system that intentionally keeps the right trust assets in front of the right people every single day? Like, what happens to your best content right now? Like, seriously, where does it go? Is it still building trust 6 months from now? Or did it disappear 48 hours after you posted it? So these are the 3 ways that you can compound trust. First, you need to know how to build connection and really understand how to make people feel you the moment they meet you. Then you need to understand how to shift those beliefs, because that's what your content should be. Like, the right content is shifting beliefs and getting them from point A, where they are in the problem, to point B, ready to buy from you. And then finally, you need to understand how to put an engine behind that. So you're not doing the heavy lifting every single day. You are literally getting it in front of your ideal clients multiple times over without having to post multiple times a day. And once you understand those 3 pillars, the path to having pre-sold clients becomes incredibly simple, because now you know exactly where the bottleneck is. And once you know where the bottleneck is, you can fix it. So here's the question that I want to leave you with. Where is your bottleneck? Is it that people can't feel you? Is it that they're not arriving at the beliefs that they need to arrive at? Or is it that trust just isn't compounding because your best content disappears the moment the algorithm decides not to show it to anybody else? Because once you know where your bottleneck is, the path becomes really, really obvious. And behind each of those 3 pillars, which are connection, conviction, and continuity, which is like, you need to be felt, you need to shift beliefs, and you need to stay present, there are specific tools and assets and processes and frameworks that we install inside of your coaching business, not so you can create more content, but so you can actually build trust faster, because trust is what creates pre-sold client. Now, if you've made it this far, I'm guessing at least one thing happened. Either you saw yourself somewhere on that map, or you identified a gap that you couldn't see before. And honestly, the biggest reason that I wanted to create this training was because once you see where your trust gap is, you can't really unsee it. And you start realizing it's not that people aren't finding me. The big thing is not visibility. It's that they're not experiencing enough of me and I'm not shifting the right beliefs. And that's a very, very solvable problem. So if you'd like our help in building your trust ecosystem and getting it in front of your perfect ideal clients so that they can arrive already pre-sold on you, here's what I'd like you to do. Head on over to Instagram and DM me the word pre-sold. Just send the word pre-sold to my Instagram at Brand Magnetic. And I built a simple automation that will send you everything, how the program works, what's included, investment details, client examples, the whole thing. I don't have setters. I don't have closers. There's no high pressure sales tactics, just the information you need to decide whether it's a fit for you. And if it is, you'll know exactly what to do next. And if it's not, no worries at all. So if this has been useful for you, shoot me the word pre-sold on Instagram and I'll see you in my inbox.